Hello and welcome to River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks, North Dakota for live dirt track racing here on Midco Sports Network. 3 classes here tonight as we are dodging the raindrops this weekend here in Grand Forks. Brian, Shawn, Shirek and Jay Elsen with you. Happy to be back for our 3rd straight year, guys. And it never gets old getting a chance to televise an event from this legendary racetrack.
Yeah, it's awesome to have the TV exposure, and tonight should be a really good show. It's the weather's hopefully playing fair for us, and we'll be good.
Yeah, you know what, I tell you what, it's great for us to be back here. The people of Grand Forks, people here at River Cities Speedway have been fantastic to us in just accommodating everything that we needed to do this for them and for the sport of racing. And so that's really exciting for us to get the opportunity to kind of give back to the sport a little bit as well.
We do have mini sprints here tonight. We have stock cars here, and the Northern Outlaw Sprint Association is here tonight, and it's a big weekend here in the Mindac Summer Swing. 4 races in 4 nights in 3 different states. Yeah,
it's always fun to, when you can put together a big old tour like this, and it's always a good time, getting to different fans that don't normally see sprint cars. It's always fun to show off in front of those guys.
Yeah, they started Thursday night at Ada in Norman County Raceway, tonight here at River Cities, and then of course down in Brown County in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and then rounding out the weekend at Casino Speedway in Watertown. Just a fun little 4-day experience for these drivers, but for fans in both Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota alike.
Wade Nygaard has been running NOSA for a really long time, picked up the win in Ada. Mark Dobmeier does have 2 wins here as well this season. We're excited to bring it to you after this. Stay tuned. Dirt track racing coming up here on Midco Sports Network after this. Welcome back to River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Our street stocks are on the track. We have 3 heats of street stocks here tonight. They'll be followed by 2 heats in the Lightning Sprints, and then our Northern Outlaw Sprint Association Sprint Cars as well. Brian, Shawn, and Shirek back with you. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight, Chris. And pretty fortunate. It did not look like we were going to be able to get this race in about 24 hours ago, but fortunately, the forecast improved. We have not seen any rain here today, and we're hoping we don't see any until we're done with the races and packed up and heading home.
Yeah, it didn't look promising when I woke up this morning, and the longer the day went on, the better the forecast got. So it looks like a beautiful night tonight. It'll be a great night for racing.
Well, let's hope for the best here as we get our street stocks ready to roll, and it is a busy weekend, obviously, in the racing community around this region as we get set for our Home of Economy car report. Chris?
So today we're doing James Mahar. He's in the 7 car. He's got a Truscinski chassis with a head key engine. His sponsors are Big Al's Construction, Dakota Laser, which actually is, they make the bodies, and Dan McNamee also races the 29. He's the one that makes the bodies. And Sean Horn is also a sponsor on that car.
Here's the rest of your street stock Heat 1 numbered lineup. Bryce Reimer, Megan McNamee, Dan McNamee on row 2 with Brandon Palm, Josh Barker, and Tyler Reimer. Rounding out your 7-car field here in the heat race. They're lined up. Get the green, and we are underway. Live dirt track racing here on Midco SN. Reimer leading into turn 1. Mahar trying to make a run on the outside. Reimer leads lap 1. And Chris, because of the humid weather, it's been pretty cool. You would expect the track to be a little heavy here to start.
Yep, with the amount of cars that have raced on the track so far, we just had a little bit of hot laps, a little bit of time trials. The track is still kind of wet. So as the race wears on a little bit, the track will start getting a little sticky. Then it'll start to dry out. Then it'll be a little bit more racy.
And Reimer continues to hold off Mahar for that lead. And right in the mix as well is the 29 of Dan McNamee. Now McNamee continues to give chase to the first 2. But Reimer sticking to that high line, sliding up into turn 2, maybe creating an opening here for Mahar.
Mahar on the inside now. Again.
Continuing, and we got a rollover here in the front stretch, and a car had flipped over and banged that front stretch wall. And that car in a little bit of a hurt right now. That's Tyler Reimer in the 45.
Yeah, and it looks like he is moving in the car. That's always a good sign.
Take a look at the replay of this one. 45 trying to make a move here on the 99, and then they kind of get together, and then he goes spinning out of control. And there you can see, got up on the side and then brought back down, Chris.
Yeah, just an unfortunate deal. The 99 got a little sideways, and 45 tried to capitalize and just barely tagged the right rear, and that's all it takes. And unfortunately, the 45 took a pretty solid hit. Good to see him moving around in the car.
Josh Barker in the 99, as those two were racing for the 5th position, and that brings out the red flag, and everybody coming to a stop as they assess the damage and assess the driver. See some white smoke coming out of the hood of that vehicle, so take a look, see how it goes along. Let's take another look here at the replay.
Yeah, it's always scary when the car lands on the driver's side like that. It's good to see the driver moving.
Well, Chris, what are they, when you're trying to get over one of these wrecks, what are you looking for that you're going to have to assess to see if the car can still run?
Well, most of the time when the car basically flips over or gets upended, oil will go into the, into parts where it's not supposed to in the engine, and that's mostly what you're worried about is getting oil in, the wrong area. The car looks like it's rolling fine. It could have some suspension damage from hitting the wall. There's just a lot of little things that could happen, and you'd rather take the time and go to the pits and check it out than, go into turn 1 the next lap and find out you don't have steering.
Yeah, that gets to be a little bit interesting when you don't have any steering, that's for sure. And if you're looking at the motor, what are some things that you could potentially take a peek?
Well, first off, you'd probably fire the engine again, just make sure that the oil gets back to where it's supposed to, then shut the car off and then measure the oil. If it's where it's supposed to be and the car wasn't upside down for very long, it's probably good.
Lineup looks good. And now Barker is even pulling off in the 99 there, coming out of turn 1. So maybe a potential issue there with the 99. You kind of see the front steering of that car is a little bit wobbly, probably due to the contact he had with Reimer.
Yeah, the left front looked a little cockeyed there, and I'm sure that's what happened. Little contact with Reimer. It don't take a lot to mess up the suspension on these. It probably just tweaked the front axle.
Bryce Reimer out of Cavalier, North Dakota. Mahar out of Grand Forks in the 7. So 2 laps remain here, 6 laps in the books in heat race number 1.
There we go. Reimer again will lead them to the green flag.
Reimer will take the field. Two McNamees also right in the mix in the 29 and 22. That's Dan and Megan. Here comes Bryce Reimer as we are once again green. Reimer continuing to work that high line, that low line into that high line coming out of turn 2. McNamee trying to give the high side a look as he's battling for position. White flag is out, 1 to go. 92 of McNamee got a little bit high that time, and the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag goes to Bryce Reimer. Takes the checker here in heat race number 1. Stay with us. Heat race number 2 on the street stocks is right after this on Midco SM.
As we get ready for the second of 3 heats tonight.
Let's take a look at your home of economy car report for heat race number 2.
John Halverson in the 35 car. He's got an Excalibur chassis, which he actually built himself. He's got a sturdy concept engine. Sponsors are Rogers Renovations, Budweiser, and Taco John's.
He will start on the outside of row number 2 as you take a look at the rest of the lineup. Ryan Johnson, Nicholas Minsky in row 1, Miller and Halverson to go with Seth Klosterreich on the outside of row 3. 6 cars, 8 laps.
Second of 3 heat races tonight with the street stocks. Ryan Johnson will lead him coming out of turn.
Ryan Johnson will lead him coming out of turn number 4, and heat race number 2 is underway. Johnson out of Carlstead, Minnesota, bunched up 3 wide there coming out of turn 2. Halverson makes a move, and he's all the way up to 3rd, now looking for 2nd, and he's got it to the flag as he passes Nicholas Minsky in the 1M. Almost a little slide job there from the 35, Chris.
Yeah, the track's starting to get a little more wide, a little wider. The little more exciting racing here in heat number 2.
Johnson continues to lead. Minsky back into 3rd. And Braden Miller right now in 4th position. Halverson continuing to put the pressure on here. Right on the back bumper of the 25. And those two have kind of separated themselves, Chris.
Yeah, you got 1 and 2 kind of pulling away from the rest of the field here. They're kind of following each other around here. That seems to be the fast line around the track, right in the middle there.
Minsky puts a little slide job on the 5 car of Braden Miller. Now Miller back to the inside. Good race for 3rd and 4th between Minsky and Miller. There's Halverson still trying to reel in the 25 of Ryan Johnson. Halverson from Warren, Minnesota, white flag out, 1 lap to go. Minsky in danger of falling back to 5th position. Seth Klosterreich trying to bring it in, but taking the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag is Ryan Johnson in the 25, Halverson into 2nd position, followed by Braden Miller from Lakota, North Dakota. Heat race number 2 in the books. We'll be back with our final heat race of the street stocks after this. Back for heat race number 3, your home of economy car report.
Starting inside the 3rd row is Daniel Aberle out of Findlay, North Dakota. Asked him what kind of a chassis he's running this year, and he said it's a little bit of a mutt. He's got a head key engine. His sponsors are Findlay Motors, Citizen State Bank. He's actually got 1 win in Devil's Lake. It was the last time they raced there about 3 weeks ago.
Aberle starting on the inside of row 3 in that 33 machine. Chase Bone, Trey Hess in the front row with Tucker Pederson and Brian Johansson behind him, in next side to him in row 2. Talked about Aberle and then Casey Usadis from Norm, North Dakota, the TU car. 2U car, excuse me. And here we go at the start of heat race number 3. A 48 of Bone trying to hold off the charge of Trey Hess, but it's Hess as they go squeezing into turn 3 and out of turn 4. They're all bunched up as Usadis has moved up a couple of spots from 6th already, and he's battling with Aberle. Pretty good racing in the back of the pack here.
Yeah, there's a lot of action going on the first couple laps here. It's kind of exciting.
And the 27 car of Tucker Pederson's kind of in no man's land there as he's been getting bumped and banged around from a couple of the cars behind him. Aberle and Usadis going at it for 4th and 5th. And they touch paint a couple of times coming out of turn 2. Trey Hess continues to lead. Bowen trying to get back and find a line to find a way past Trey Hess, but so far unable to do so. Aberley into fourth. The 27 of Tucker Pederson. And now a little bit of mistake coming out of turn 2 as Hess goes high, and that opens the door for Bowen to take over the lead. Bowen out of Carlstead, Minnesota. Hess out of Lakota. Two laps left here in this final heat race for the street stocks. Bowen sliding up high. Hess still right there trying to challenge. And it feels like Pederson has made up some ground in that through position as well as we take the white flag.
Yeah, when the first two guys started swapping positions, third place kind of just stuck right in there.
They've spread out a little bit here now, and taking the checkered flag, Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag, will be Chase Bowen. He's the winner of heat race number 3, and that will do it for the street stocks here on our heat racing action from River Cities Speedway. The Lightning Sprints are up next, 2 heats of those, and that's after this on Midco SN. Our street stocks action in the heat races is complete, and now we are getting ready for our first heat race for the Lightning Sprints here from River Cities Speedway. And here is the car report brought to you from Home of Economy.
Starting inside the second row out of Grand Forks is Zach Kwiatkowski in the 17K. He's got a Henchcraft chassis built by Eagle. He's got a Honda engine. Sponsors are Garon Construction and Norwex.
Kelsey Pederson, Abrahamson in row 1 as we get set to go green. Kwiatkowski, Schmeideberg, Berg, and Murray Temple in row 4. I guess we're going to take him around one more time here before we get rolling. Just talk a little bit about these mini sprints, Chris, and Lightning Sprints, and maybe the biggest differences and what kind of motors they run and all those sorts of things.
Well, a lot of these guys or guys and gals are running 1,000cc motorcycle engines. They used to run snowmobile engines, and the motorcycle ones just got up to speed quicker, so everybody transitioned to those.
Kelsey Pederson was the feature race winner 2 years ago when we televised the race at River City Speedway, and she's off to a good start here, taking the lead out of turn 1, and she looks really smooth here through the first lap, and she's your leader.
Yeah, it looks like she picked up where she left off last time we televised here. Abrahamson
trying to give chase. Schmeideberg and Kwiatkowski in 3rd and 4th as we complete our second lap. And it does look like Abrahamson is reeling in Pederson by just a little bit here each lap.
Yeah, they're running 2 distinct lines. Kelsey's on the bottom, and Josh is running a little bit of the higher line. He's running up on the cushion.
It looks like Abrahamson's about 1/10 of a second quicker the last time around. So we'll see if Pederson can hold him off here as he continues to gain ground. Pretty good battle for 3rd and 4th as well between Schmeideberg and Kwiatkowski. Abrahamson continues to ride that high cushion, trying to take that momentum around. Pederson continues on her low line. And Abrahamson, he's sniffing it out here as he's continuing to try to reel in Kelsey Pederson, and now he's nose to tail with the 93. White flag is out. Can Pederson hold him off for one more lap? Riding on that high line, a little bit of momentum. Pederson trying to shut the door and bounces him a little bit into turn 3, and Pederson going to hold off Josh Abrahamson for the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag. Schmeideberg, Kwiatkowski, Temple, and Berg round out your top 6. They're fun to watch. They're flying around. And we got one more heat race of the Lightning Sprints after this on Midco Sports Network. Back for heat race number 2 as we look at your Home of Economy car report.
starting on the outside of front row, Parker Monroe in the 30M. He's got a Bailey chassis. He runs a Suzuki GSXR 1000 engine. A little fun fact about him, he actually started go-karts before this. And I can relate because I started go-karts before I jumped up into the big sprints. And one of his main sponsors is Shawn Horn, and Shawn was also one of my biggest sponsors and a very close friend.
Let's look at Parker Monroe. Got the two. Truscinski is in here. Alex and Allen. Dvergsten's always really good. Brody Hutton from Manville will start off on the pole with Monroe on the outside of row one. We talked about the Truscinskis, and then Steve Hildebrand will start last as we have a car pull into the infield here, and I believe that is Hildebrand, who may be having some issues as he pulls into the infield coming off of turn two. So there'll be 6 cars here as we get set to start this second heat. And they're trying to check in, I think, here with Hildebrand to see what the situation is.
Yeah, it looks like Brody Hutton is having some problems. He fell back
is that Brody
to
Hutton? Okay.
Well, Brody Hutton's, he's back in third row inside at the moment.
Last week, Parker Monroe, 5th in his heat, and he did not finish the heat race, or finish his feature race, did finish 10th. And right now it's Truscinski that is your leader. So there is a shuffle in the lineup here as we start off this second heat race. Truscinski leads, Monroe, Dvergsten, Williams, Alan Truscinski, and then Brody Hutton right now in 6th. So Hutton has moved up. And Hutton well off the pace here as Truscinski. Alan Truscinski's past him. Running away with it is Alex Truscinski. Good battle for second place. Dvergsten putting on the pressure on the high side. And well, he's found something working with his car on up top as he passes Parker Monroe for second. Now can he reel in Truscinski? He certainly looks like the fastest car right now, Chris.
Yeah, he's got something figured out on that little higher line. He's running about a car and a half higher than Alex, who's running up front.
Well, that time to the line, virtually a dead heat in lap time. So Truscinski right now looking like he's got a pretty good stranglehold as we have 2 laps to go. White flag is out, 1 lap to go. Truscinski is led from the get-go, and boy, he is flying around the track, along with Dvergsten. And bringing home the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag is Alex Truscinski. Impressive drive in heat race number 2. That will round out our heat racing action as Parker Monroe comes home 3rd and Mark Williams is 4th. Up next, the Northern Outlaw Sprint Association Sprint Cars, 2 heats of those. Next on Midco SN. Back here at River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks. So far, the rain holding off. We've been very fortunate. Track's starting to work in pretty good, Chris, as they're finding a low line and a high line, and that cushion's starting to develop right now.
Yeah, and with the sprint cars coming out here on the track right now, they'll be pushing the cushion up. The track looks smooth. I can see the sprint cars being about halfway up, and everybody just running in the track. It'll be perfect come feature time.
They continue to push him off here, and Presley Truedson, by the way, is out there in the number 5. I talked to her father Todd just before we came up to the booth. He did not think they would put her out racing in a pack, but the number 5 is out there. Let's go to Jay Elsen.
Yeah, Brian, Chris just mentioned the track conditions here, and he is right. It is smooth. Talked to a couple of the different NOSA drivers. One of them said it's really fast, too fast for his liking. Hopes it slicks off tonight before they get to the feature. Otherwise, he fears that it'll just be fast and there won't be a whole lot of passing. But another driver tells me, one of the guys that's here every single week, or most weeks anyway, he says best track by far they have had here at River Cities so far this season.
Interesting how the opinions vary from driver to driver in terms of what the track conditions might be. And, we had talked about Presley Truedson. We did not know she was coming here tonight. She is not even living in this area anymore. She's living in Illinois. And this is the first time she's been in this sprint car. It's the first time that they fired up the sprint car this season, and they had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I talked to Presley, and she drove back from Illinois, I believe. She got into town about 4 a.m. and she was going to race her lightning sprint, and the power steering pump never showed up, so they pulled out the 410 sprint car and brought it to the races tonight.
And she did not have a transponder in qualifying because she wasn't planning to race, so she actually is going to start last in her heat just because she really doesn't have a qualifying time. As we take a look at the car report, brought to you by Home of Economy on Wade Nygaard.
So Wade Nygaard starting inside the 4th row. He's utilizing a J&J chassis. He's got a Ryder engine with a one-way injection. Sponsors are Auto Finance Supercenter. He's won 3 times this year. He actually went last night in NOSA and Ada. And he won a 360 event in Cedar Lake with the Midwest Power Series.
A couple of years ago, Nygaard did try his hand in Knoxville, the first time he had been there in almost 10 years. As we take a look at the NOSA Sprints lineup, Nick Ranten, Shane Roemmling on the front row, Tanner Wisk, Blake Egeland, Ty Hanten, Brendan Mullen, Wade Nygaard, and Austin Pierce also very good on this track. And Chris Ranten had second quick time here tonight in time trial as well, as we are underway in heat race number 1 of the NOSA Sprints. Nick Ranten leading into turn 1. Brendan Mullen, the 16-year-old, trying to get by Blake Egeland, and Mullen had a really good drive last night, finished 3rd, a career high at Norman County Raceway in Ada.
Track looks real fast. There's still a couple lanes. Once everybody gets kind of strung out, you'll see the track about halfway up.
Chris Rand has moved by Ty Hanten into 7th position. Austin Pierce up to 6th. And Pierce putting the pressure on Tanner Wisk, but it's Nick Ranten running away from everybody here in the first heat race, with Roemmling still in 2nd. And Truedson's car slow coming to the front stretch, and she's going to pull it in. So potentially some issues with that number 5. And again, they had no idea what to expect when they rolled that one out of the trailer. They bought that car from Mark Dobmeier. Has about 5 races on it.
Yeah, they talked to her dad, and the car wasn't even blocked. It wasn't even set up. They were just going to run basically a couple laps, shake it down, and pull it in.
Rand continuing to cruise on the high side, and he has pulled out a big lead right now in Shane Roemmling here in heat race number 1. Wade Nygaard has been stuck all the way back in 9th place. He's not been able to move up here tonight, and it's a tough track to move up on, as Chris Ranten tries to put a move on Austin Pierce. Blake Egeland continuing to run 3rd. Brendan Mullen in 4th. Tanner Wisk in 5th. White flag is out for Nick Ranten. The 55 of Nick Ranten. He's had his ups and downs in that machine this year, but he will take the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag, easily winning this race by a bunch over everybody else. Roemmling into 2nd. Blake Egeland finishing 3rd. That'll do it for heat race number 1. We'll be back with your 2nd heat race after this. There's a look at your 2019 NOSA standings. Not a lot of races in the books because of some rain in May, but they have been able to get a couple of shows in here the last couple of weeks. Here at River Cities Speedway last Friday, and then in Ada last night. They will continue now in South Dakota tomorrow night at Brown County Speedway before heading over to Watertown to Casino to round out this 4-race weekend. Wade Nygaard leading Nick Omdahl by 6, Jade Hastings, Jordan Adams, and Shane Roemmling in your top 5 right now.
And it's actually a pretty tight battle. The way the point system works, it's 1 point per position, essentially. So Wade was six points ahead. That's really only 6 positions. It takes one night. So if Wade Nygaard crashes tonight and Jade Hastings has a decent night, Jade could be leading. Vice versa, if Jade crashes tonight, and Wade wins, then Wade's got a lot bigger lead. So it's a very, very tight race. It just shows how close all these drivers are. And the importance of consistency, trying to get yourself as many top 5s and top 10s as possible and as few as DNFs as possible, because that can really set you back. Yeah, you always want to keep the car on the track as much as possible. If you have a DNF, it kills your points chance. Let's take a look at your Home of Economy car report on the Home Economy number 20 of Jordan Adams from Reynolds, North Dakota. Yeah, so Jordan's starting outside the second row. He's running a Maxim chassis with a Gertie 410. He actually had to put the Gertie in tonight because he blew up his other engine last night in Ada. So, like we had mentioned, it's Home of Economy as a sponsor, Aflac is a sponsor, and Hudson Wellness Center in Tan, which is conveniently my sister-in-law owns that business, and it's named after my godson, Hudson. So I want to say hello to Hudson watching at home.
All right, hello, Hudson. Jay Elsen, we heard from Chris Shirek about the motor issues for Jordan Adams, and you got more on that, right?
Yeah, that's right, Brian. Had a chance to catch up with Jordan in the pit area following his qualifying run. He finished 10th quick. Remember, he's in that little bit smaller motor here tonight. I asked him, hey, so what do you think about it? You guys will love this response. He had a little chuckle. It's too small.
Did ask Jordan about the difference in the motor. He said it's about 100 horsepower. Not a huge difference. He goes, not a big difference maybe on a track like this. On larger tracks, you'd probably notice it more, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's on these smaller tracks, sometimes the big motors aren't the greatest. You come out of the corner, you hit the gas, the front end comes up. Well, you can't drive if you don't have all 4 tires on the ground.
You always did, though. Let's take a look at your heat race lineup for heat race number 2 of the NOSA Sprints. Tom Egeland, Jack Croaker, and again, they invert the entire field here in the heat races after the qualifying. That's something new they're doing this year. That's why Mark Dobmeier, Jade Hastings are way back in row 4. Nick Omdahl, Bob Martin in row 3. Adams and Graham, a pair of Jordans, on row 2. And Travis Strandell was the last car to qualify, and it's the first night the 41 has been on the track. First night he's been in the car. He is still very much learning this sport and how it's going to go. So the 41, you're going to notice, is very far off the pace, but still just getting used to sprint car racing. As the green flag drops, Egeland and Croaker take him to the green flag. Croaker looking to the outside of Egeland. Jordan Adams into 3rd. Mark Dobmeier already up to 4th from 8th. Adams on the high side, looking to the inside of Croaker and Jordan Adams into 2nd place. We had a car slide off the top, and that is Nick Omdahl in the 0 coming out of turn 2.
And it looks like we did get a lap in, so Mark Dobmeier's efforts there, it will pay off because now he'll start it in the 4th position. And if we did not get a lap in, it would have had to go all the way back to a complete restart, and Mark would have had to start back in that 7th, 8th position.
Well, Mark really jumped quickly there off the start, and Jade Hastings looked like he got off to a little bit of a rough start coming from the inside of row 7, and there's a look at the 0 of Omdahl.
Tommy Egeland so far leading the way. Jack Croaker behind him in the 8 car. Jordan Adams in the 20E. He's in 3rd
So
place.
Croaker in 2nd, and again, Adams did pass him in turn 2 coming out of the 2nd lap, but we did not complete that 2nd lap, so Croaker will get his position back with Tom Egeland still leading. They will start single file here in the heat race with Dobmeier in 4th. And you see the veteran Bobby Martin in the number 10 car in 5th position. And Jordan Graham right now in 6th with Hastings and Omdahl tagging the back of the field.
Be a single power restart. Egeland will lead the way in the 14 car. Jack Croaker right behind him. Jordan Adams in the 20.
Last week here at River Cities Speedway, Jordan Adams started off on the pole of that race, and then he ran into some issues. Chris Ranten said, well, we've been good when we finished, but they haven't finished all the time. And Jade Hastings, that opened the door with that caution as he went by Shane Roemmling in the 8H, and Hastings really dominated from there the rest of the way. And even Jade said after the race, I didn't feel like we had the best car. I didn't feel like we were totally dialed in, but we were good enough to win tonight. And that was the first win here of the 2019 season for the youngster.
Yeah, sometimes it don't matter if you have the best car or not. You just need to lead that last lap, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it don't.
So pace car is off as Egeland will take us to green. Only 1 lap completed in the 2nd heat race. Egeland quickly on the gas. Dobmeier looking to the inside of Jordan Adams. He sticks to the high line and slides in front of Jordan Adams all the way up to 3rd. Jack Croaker trying to hold off the 13. And Bobby Martin and Jade Hastings battling for that 5th position. Egeland continues to lead. Croaker putting on the pressure. And we see the 41 here of Strandell will definitely be in play, as they're all going to have to maneuver around him. And Dobmeier trying to use that to his advantage. And Croaker goes high, Dobmeier goes low, and Dobmeier puts the slide job in turn 2. He's all the way up from 8th to 2nd, and he's got his sights set on the 14 of Tom Egeland.
Yeah, and Dobmeier's always pretty good around here, and this is the type of track he likes. A little bit of a cowboy up and let her buck.
And Dobmeier passing Egeland going into turn 3. Jordan Adams trying to get past Jack Croaker in the 8-ball car. Egeland falling back to 2nd. Dobmeier is cruising away from everybody. Jade Hastings now closing in on Jordan Adams after passing Bob Martin. So they're bunched up here, 2 through 6. Hastings trying to slide in front of Adams. Adams trying to hold off the 8. And the white flag is out 3 wide coming out of turn 4. Adams goes back to the high side, catches a little bit of the cushion. Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag goes to Mark Dobmeier, and Adams and Hastings nearly got together coming out of turn 3 and 4. Adams able to save it and still finish ahead of Bobby Martin and Nick Omdahl as Jade Hastings wheels his way all the way up to 4th. Mark Dobmeier sails away with that heat race victory and takes the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag as Tom Egeland will finish in 2nd. That will do it for our NOSA Sprint Cars and do it for our heat racing action as we are cruising along here, just 45 minutes into the show and all heat races completing. Just 3 features remain. We'll step aside, take a break, and be back with more from here from Midco Sports. Welcome back to River Cities Speedway. They're packing in the track and getting it ready for our 3 feature events from here at River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Thanks so much for joining us. Brian, Shawn, Chris, Shirek, Jay Elsen is in the pits with us tonight. And Chris, they're flying through the heat races here as we're trying to dodge the rain, which is just to the west of us.
Yeah, the rain is moving in a little bit, but the track's looking good. The intermission shouldn't be too terribly long. Track's starting to dry out on the bottom. Nice little cushion up on top. I think the features will be, as good of racing as the heats were.
The NLRA late models are not here tonight. They're here on Sunday as a part of this fair weekend of racing that we have. And one of the racers that you've been seeing for decades, and I mean decades here, is Tom Corcoran in the T1. His 50th year of racing. This guy's been around. He has won races for a long time. He has raced for a long time. And Jeremy Klein has a feature on this young man and old man.
I was born into a racing family. My father raced for 16 years. My uncle Jim actually ran the racetrack in Grand Forks for many years. It's actually a second home. I mean, it's one of those situations where I actually started working at the racetrack when I was about 12 years old, when my uncle ran it, and it was just a strong family connection.
Tom Corcoran's love for racing revved up at a young age. He got behind the wheel 50 years ago and has not taken his foot off the gas pedal since.
I never set out to do anything like this. It's gone by in a heartbeat. I mean, it's 50 years, but it's been a great time. The plan was to win a lot of races, and at this point I can say I've been fortunate enough to win my share and probably then some, and it's things like that that you really remember.
In this 50th anniversary season, Corcoran is able to reflect on all of the people that have helped him accomplish this feat.
It takes a lot of support. I've been fortunate enough to have pretty decent sponsors over the years, many of them long-term, long-time friends and sponsors. Over the past many years, I've had very good crew members, and the other big thing was family support. If my kids hadn't liked it, that may have curtailed it for me.
Three summers ago, in year 47, Corcoran had a hip replacement, and even that couldn't slow him down when he picked up his latest feature race victory at River Cities Speedway.
Now in a victory lap here for the Hall of Famer Tom Corcoran.
I'd gone through a dry spell. I'd won previous to that in 2010, and then not again until 2016. And for me, that was really unusual, and it just made it all the more special. It makes you appreciate the success you had prior to that.
At an estimated 235 career wins, according to Corcoran, he has already found his rightful place in the River Cities Speedway Hall of Fame next to some familiar people.
The important thing was to get in the Hall of Fame with a lot of family. I mean, my father's in it, 3 of my uncles are in it, so I mean, it's a huge deal for our family. You know, it's an honor to be there with them.
This Hall of Fame career is not done yet. Corcoran still has a goal that he hopes to achieve.
I've won feature races in 5 decades. If I could come out next season, win one, and win feature events in 6 decades, I don't know who else could pass that. So, I mean, that's a pretty good stretch. The fear of the unknown is kind of one of the things that's keeping me going for all these years. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do when I'm done.
And for now, Corcoran is going to do what he loves and just enjoy season number 50.
I didn't really give it a lot of thought until we actually started racing this year. As big a thing as a lot of people thought it was, you know, I started to believe that, you know, there really was something to it. So.
But for you, it's just another.
It's just another season. Yep.
Tom Corcoran, how about that 50 years in a race car? That just says a lot about this guy, and he's still competitive every single week.
Yeah, that's crazy. We went 15, and that to us seemed like, you know, it flew by, and I can't imagine, you know, 50 years. That is crazy. Good for him, and good for his family, his sponsors. I mean, it takes more than just you. It took my whole family. You know, it took sponsors. It took, you know, friends. It took a lot of people for 15. I could not imagine doing 50.
And the one thing that we should share is Tom has saved every receipt from every piece and everything he's ever put into a race car, and he is too afraid to add it up because he does not want to see the number that he has spent. Can you imagine how much money he has pumped into cars over 50 years?
I do not even want, I wouldn't even want to know 10% of that. I wouldn't even want to know.
Something tells me if he did know that, he knows he could have retired from his regular life about 10 or 15 years ago based on the amount of money he spent on his cars.
Yeah, but I mean, if you retire, you know, what are you going to do? Go to the races, and you're going to buy a car. So.
And as he said, I have no idea what I'm going to do when I'm done, so I think he's going to keep going, hip replacement and all, continuing to drive that T1, and it's still fun to see Tom out there as well. Stay with us, more to come as our 3 feature events remain here at River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks.
Racing from River Cities Speedway on Midco Sports Network, presented by Home of Economy and Buffalo Wild Wings.
The track has been packed down by the push trucks, and we are about to set and ready to go for our 3 feature events, starting with the street stocks here in just a couple of moments on Midco Sports Network. Brian, Shawn, Chris Shirek, pleased to be with you from this legendary track that was dedicated by Franklin Delano Roosevelt back in the 1920s. That's how old this place is. This grandstand, Chris, is about 3 or 4 times older than we are.
For sure. In the 1920s, it's 2019 now. It's almost 100 years old. That's crazy.
And it's still standing, and it's still tremendous racing as well. Street stocks coming up first. We saw some different cars. We saw Johnson, Aberley. Those were the guys that battled it out here last week. You have to figure they're going to be in contention once again.
Yeah, it's. I'm not quite sure where they start yet, but you know, those will be a couple guys to watch. They're always fast. They'll work their way to the front. It'll be nice and quick. Track looks perfect. It's going to be a great feature to watch.
19 cars slated to start that street stock feature. That will be followed by the Lightning Sprints, and there's 12 of those here as well. We're back with the start of that after this. Let's take a look at the Home of Economy car report as we get set for our street stock feature, and that is the 2U of Casey Usatis.
So Casey Usatis has a little ways to go today. He's starting inside the 8th row. He's running a Dynamite engine inside a Truscinski chassis. He's actually got 1 win in Mandan, so he'll be fun to watch here tonight. Sponsors are Railline Ranch and the Bowler.
He kind of races all over. We'll also see him in Jamestown quite a bit as well as we take a look at your starting lineup. Trey Hess, Tucker Pederson on row 1, James Mihar, and Dan McNamee in row 2 with Brandon Miller and Chase Bowen. John Halverson and Bryce Reimer will be in your 4th row with Ryan Johnson and Brandon Palm, starting 9th and 10th, respectively.
5 o'clock is actually 6 o'clock on Sunday.
In row 6, Daniel Aberley and Nicholas Minsky, Megan McNamee, Seth Klosterake, Casey Usadis, as you mentioned, has some work to do. Starting on the inside of row 8, Brian Johannesson and Josh Barker, Tyler Reimer in row 10. If the 45 can get back out here, and it looks like he is. The 45, after taking a tumble in his heat race, getting up on the side, making contact with the fence, they've been able to piece that car back together, and he will start in the final position for this feature race. We are set to go green next time by as the 27 of Pederson and the number 4 of Trey Hess will take us to green. Green flies, we're underway. Hess looking to the high side. Pederson trying to hold him off as he goes high, and it's the 27 of Tucker Pederson leading as they come into turn number 3, but it's going to be Hess and Pederson nose to nose, side by side into lap 1, and it's Pederson that was the lap 1 leader. They continue to maneuver around and keep an eye on Mihar in that number 7 machine.
Track's looking really good. They're side by side all the way from first to last. They're holding their lines. It's been track's holding up very well.
It's been tough moving up. We talked about Casey Usadis. He's not been able to make up any position so far. Pederson still your leader, but Hess right there in the mix as he continues to apply pressure. And now the 29 of Dan McNamee is also moving himself into position to try to challenge for the lead. He will stick on that high side. The 48 of Chase Bowen, he won his heat race, is sticking in 4th as he's keeping his eyes on the leaders as well. You can never count out Ryan Johnson, the 25 either, Chris.
Yeah, he's back in 5th right now, but he doesn't really have any place to go. He's trying to go high, but there's a couple cars high. He'll go low, and then there's a couple cars low.
Pederson continues to lead. Boy, these guys have been really close. 3 wide coming out of turn 2, and then backing off there at the last moment was McNamee, and that was a wise decision as he would have gotten squeezed.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you just try to last, get a little single file, then you can start racing. And right now the leaders aren't really ready to go single file yet.
And Hess trying to put a little slide job on Pederson, and now Pederson is kind of charged to the outside, pushed to the outside as Hess will lead this lap. And keep an eye on the 29 of McNamee, who is right in the mix. And how about the 35 of John Halverson, who has worked his way past Bowen up to 4th.
Yeah, we got 3 wide. This is some exciting racing.
Boy, what a drive by Halverson. He wasn't even in the top 6 a lap and a half ago, and now he's all the way up to 2nd as he passes Pederson and Bowen. Can Hess hold off Halverson, who looks like the fastest car right now on the track?
Yeah, he started in 7th position, and he's found something here in the middle of the track. He's kind of going where everybody else isn't.
Braden Miller in the number 5 also trying to keep his eye on this lead pack as he is charged up. Four laps left in this 15-lap A-main event for the Street Stocks. And it's a 2-way battle right now at the top between Trey Hess and John Halverson. Halverson from Warren, Minnesota, Hess from Lakota, North Dakota. But it just seems like every lap Halverson continues to reel him in as he continues to work that low line. And Halverson now right there, less than a half second behind Hess for the lead. Meanwhile, Chase Bowen has moved back up to 3rd place, and the 25 of Ryan Johnson up to 4th. White flag is out for Trey Hess. He's got to hold off Halverson for one more lap.
Halverson changed lines here.
Halverson going to try to get it to fly. Hess trying to hold his line and drag a race to the finish line, and he fell Halverson, but held him off as Trey Hess takes home the checkered flag, the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag for the feature victory here tonight. Boy, that was a fun race the last 4 or 5 laps, Chris, as those two street stocks went right at each other.
Chase Bowen unofficially in 3rd, Ryan Johnson 4th, Tucker Pederson dropping to 5th in the 27P car,
Chase Bowen comes home third. Ryan Johnson, Tucker Pederson, and Braden Miller round out your top 6. Bryce Reimer, he won his heat race, and he finished 7th with Dan McNamee coming home in 8th. First win of the season for Trey Hess out of Lakota. We'll chat with him after this in Victory Lane. Trey Hess holds off John Halverson to take home his first victory here at River Cities Speedway in a thrilling fashion. He was pressured, but he didn't make any critical mistakes in those last couple of laps and pull off the huge win here tonight.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is being smooth, and he had a fast car, and it's nerve-wracking. All you're looking for is a white flag and with a quick checkered.
Let's go to Jay Elsen with the winner.
All right, Trey, understand, first career win here at River Cities Speedway for you, on television no less. Probably something you're not going to forget for quite some time, I've got to imagine.
No, the closest I ever came to winning here came on my birthday a couple years ago. I set the closest finish here and barely got edged out by Johnson, so this is awesome. I got a family reunion tomorrow, and hopefully I can repeat tomorrow in Devil's Lake.
Hey, big weekend for the Hess family. Talk about how you did this. You started second, you got to the front right away, and then from that point on, it was just holding off a really good feel.
Yeah, the throttle stuck wide open, so I kind of just held on and hoped that it stuck and sprayed.
Yeah, John Halverson in particular, he's been really good here this year, and he was the guy chasing you down. How'd you hold him on?
I saw him coming on the bottom, so I kind of cut down to the bottom, hoped that it was going to work. I think he went up to the top coming to the checkered there, but it was awesome.
All right, congratulations, Trey, on that first win. Thanks for your time. Trey Hess, guys, Wissota Street Stocks winner here tonight at River City Speedway.
And here's your top 10. Trey Hess, John Halverson, Chase Bowen, a good drive. Ryan Johnson also moved up with Tucker Pederson, who started on the front row on the pole with Miller, Bryce Reimer, Dan McNamee, Daniel Aberle, and James Mahar. Rounding out your top 10, and sweet vindication for Trey Hess after he was unable to finish last week here, finished 14th. And as you said, he's come close a couple of times. And Johnson, who's always been so good here, he has a first and a third here. Johnson does already this season here at River Cities. So a fun way to start off our feature action here as our Street Stocks 15 lapper is in the books. Back with your lightning sprints. The lightning sprints are on the track, 14 of them. We'll take the green flag here in just a couple of moments. Let's take a look at our Home of Economy car report. Alex Truscinski.
Alex is starting outside of the front row, so he'll be a car to watch here. He's using a Henchcraft chassis. He's actually got a Yamaha R1 engine. Apparently that's kind of an anomaly amongst these mini guys. Main sponsors, Alto's Precision Mowers.
Truscinski is always a factor in the lightning sprint class. They've had a lot of success. Alex and Alan, for that matter. Dvergsten in row 2 with Josh Abrahamson. Abrahamson really put the pressure on Kelsey Pederson in that heat race, if you remember back to heat race number 1. Mike Schmeideberg, Mark Williams in row 3 with Murray Temple, Parker Monroe. Zach Kwiatkowski and Alan Truscinski in row 5. As they're lining up, Jason Berg, Brody Hutton in row 6. And then Travis Surerus and Steve Hildebrand in row 7. Keep an eye certainly on the 11 car of Dvergsten, who looked really fast in his heat as well. Pace car getting set to pull off. We should be green next time. Tied is Truscinski and Kelsey Pederson will go green. Pederson, Truscinski, here comes the green. We're underway in our lightning sprint feature. Pederson slides up into the middle groove, and she will lead after the first half lap as Dvergsten tries to slide underneath, and Kelsey Pederson takes lap 1, and the 16 car of Abrahamson now up to 3rd. That 16 car in that high groove, Chris, was really good in the heat race, and he looks like he's still good up there.
Yeah, the bottom's starting to dry out a little bit. Looks like there's a little moisture on the bottom. But yeah, Josh is making that top work. Once the bottom starts drying out a little bit more, Josh will hopefully sneak up behind him and snag a couple positions.
Meanwhile, Kelsey Pederson continues to lead. Truscinski continues to give chase. And they've spread out pretty good now, Chris. It makes you wonder if lap traffic will be a factor here before too long.
Yeah, it kind of looks like most of the cars are running that bottom groove about a car and a half up from the bottom. And in about 2-3 laps, Kelsey will run into the lap traffic, and it'll be interesting to see which line she chooses to get around him.
Pederson continues to lead. Truscinski just 0.6 of a second behind the leader. Abrahamson about 1.7 seconds behind. And now Dvergsten trying to get back into the mix as well. And those 4 cars have really separated from the rest of the field. The 79 of Mike Schmeideberg is about 2 seconds behind the 4th place car right now, Dvergsten. And there's a look at Pederson, who's led the whole way after starting on the pole, and she's just about ready to come into lap traffic. And first car she'll have to pass is Hildebrand in the 21.
Yeah, once she makes a couple passes here, then she'll have a little bit of a open track in front of her.
Hildebrand continues to ride that high line. Pederson slides low. Truscinski continues to follow the 93. And Pederson around that first lap car. Now a lap car between her and Truscinski. Truscinski flies low into the inside and maybe caught Pederson a little bit, narrowed the gap, which is down to just 0.3 seconds now between the 10 and the 93.
Yeah, the 10 really closed the gap, you know, with the lap traffic here.
The 19 car of Travis Surerus is the next lap car that Pederson's going to have to try to get by. Pederson able to steer by him, and Truscinski follows. Truscinski low, Pederson cuts him off coming out of turn 2. White flag is about set to go, and the white flag is out for Kelsey Pederson. Truscinski has one more lap to try to catch her. Kelsey's father, Joey, has won a bunch here. Kelsey won here 2 years ago in this event, and she's got another Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag leading wire to wire. Truscinski put the pressure on, but unable to pass the 93 of Kelsey Pederson. Coming home third was Josh Abrahamson, Mike Schmeideberg, and Dvergsten finishing 3rd, 4th, and 5th, respectively. Alan Truscinski coming all the way from the outside of row 10 to finish in 6th. So Kelsey Pederson takes home yet another checkered flag. This Pederson name in this racetrack have had a lot of success. So our second feature race is complete. Just the NOSA Sprints remain, but first we'll check in with our winner, Kelsey Pederson in Victory Lane. We'll have that after this here on Midco SN. As you see, the Greater Grand Forks Fair is taking place this weekend behind us. They got a lot of different activities going on. And one happy driver down at Victory Lane who's won twice here on TV in the last 3 years is Kelsey Pederson, and she's standing by with Jay Elsen.
Yeah, all right, thanks, Brian. Kelsey, I don't know, maybe you want us to come every time you race here, but you're 2 for 2 on Midco Sports Network. Is that exciting?
Yeah, it's exciting, you know, the way that it seems to work out every time. I love running here at the fair. Brings out a great crowd, and just getting to run at home the few times that I do a year really means a lot.
Yeah, big hug from Dad here in Victory Lane. What's that mean to you to be able to share moments like that?
Yeah, you know, this is actually the first time I've ever been here in Victory Lane with him because he's usually racing, so he's up next, but yeah, it means a lot.
Talk about the way this one went down. Tonight it was all about the start. You got to the front. Truscinski gave you a little bit of a difficult time there in turns 1 and 2 a couple of different times, but you were able to hold him off.
Yeah, I knew that a start would be a key aspect of this race because it's pretty much hammer down track. And then just keeping your momentum up and staying clean through lap cars is pretty much how you get it done.
All right, congratulations, Kelsey. Kelsey Pederson, your winner tonight in the Lightning Sprint. She's 2 for 2 here on Midco Sports Network, fellas.
That 93 car, she's liking when we come to town. She wants us to come every week. And there's a look at Kelsey Pederson, who's really become a veteran here in the Lightning Sprint. She has all these top 5 feature finishes, now 7 here in 2019 in 7 races. So she's been very consistent and was the NLSA champion last year.
Yeah, it takes consistency. Clearly, you can see 24 top fives. That's about as consistent as you can get. That's no or very little DNFs if she had any. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to be a champion.
And now she has a brother as well that is racing, I believe, this year that has a car in the field. So you have a bunch of Pedersons. That garage is getting pretty full out there.
Yeah, Joey's gonna have to build a third or a fourth stall out at the house.
Yeah, and Joey, as you mentioned, will be racing here on Sunday night with the NLRA late model, and that's a familiar yellow number 7P. And here are your top 10 finishers. Pederson with Truscinski, Abrahamson and Schmeideberg. And those four really separated themselves. Dvergsten actually fell back to 5th, made a little bit of a mistake there. Schmeideberg able to get by him. Alan Truscinski, probably the hard charger we had in here after starting near the back of the field, was all the way moving his way up to the 6th position with Murray, Temple, Kwiatkowski, Parker Monroe, and Travis Surerus in the 10th spot. They continue to work on the track now. You see they're digging up the bottom in both 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, Chris. Trying to set up a high line and low line for the sprint cars as we get set for our final feature of the night.
Yeah, if they do the same thing in turn 2 as they did in turn 4, it looks like about halfway between 3 and 4, they dug up the bottom, so that gives a little bit of drive coming out. It'll be dry going in, so the cars won't be able to, fly into the corner. It'll be a little bit slower going in, but then you'll have a little moisture coming out.
So if you're setting up your car for this feature, just looking at what you're seeing right now with the track conditions, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to gauge as you get set for these 25 laps coming up here in just a couple of moments?
Well, most of the time, my dad, my brother, and my crew would set me up for the top, because that's kind of where I ended up. No matter if I told them I'm going to the bottom, I would end up on the top. I'm going to the middle, I would end up on the top. So they obviously knew how I drove the car more than I knew how I drove the car. So no matter what, I always tried to typically go up on top. To me, the top is always the fastest around this place with the sprint car. That's why they're trying to dig the bottom up a little bit, try to get a little more advantage to run the bottom. But I still feel like the top will be the way to the victory lane here tonight.
And we saw Mark Dobmeier go all the way from 8th to 1st in his heat race. He's tough enough to beat the way it is, but when he's starting at the front, that makes it extra difficult.
Yeah, he's good around here. I mean, he's good in Grand Forks. He's good on these small, tight bull rings.
And there's a look at some of the numbers for Mark Dobmeier, all-time wins leader here at River Cities. He was the 2007 Knoxville Raceway 410 Rookie of the Year, and that just tells you now that Mark is no longer a young guy. He is now a veteran. I believe he's almost 40 years old. He's got a couple of kids he's running around with and is keeping busy, and has 2 feature wins already here in 2019.
Yeah, and he's also a car owner. When he first started, his dad owned the car, and he drove for his dad, and then he started driving for Dave Lunstra from Sioux Falls. So he was a car owner, or just a driver. And then a few years ago, he ran for Senski, and now he's a car owner again, and he hasn't missed a beat.
Continues to roll right along. Owns his own team now, buying the Buffalo Wild Wings machine and its equipment from Fred LaHaye last year. The fair is still going on. The lights are coming on, and we got one more feature race left here on Midco SN. The NOSA Sprint Cars are on the track, and they're going to get set to fire up and line up here in just a couple of moments. Let's take a look at your Home of Economy car report, and that is the 13 of Mark Dobmeier.
Yeah, the Buffalo Wild Wings, Mark Dobmeier, number 13. He's running a Maxim chassis this year with a Don Ott engine. He's sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings, Lean Packaging, Dahlstrom Motors, and Lundstrom Motorsports.
Dobmeier will start on the outside of row 4. Nick Ranten will be on the pole. Tom Egeland to the outside of him.
Look at our pace car tonight, the 2019 Chevrolet Traverse all-wheel drive with a 360 surround vision. Cajun red.
Tom Egeland, Shane Roemmling, and Jack Croaker. Jade Hastings, Blake Egeland with Austin Pierce and Mark Dobmeier. So Nick Ranten, after winning his heat race, will start on the pole. And that'll interesting spot for a guy that's only in his second year in a sprint car. We've seen he's actually performed very, very well. He's very comfortable wheeling the car around, still getting used to it a little bit. But I think both Ranten brothers would just try to like to be a little bit more consistent. When they finished, they said, we finished great, but when we haven't finished enough, we need to finish more races.
Yeah, and that just comes with time, you know. It's like you mentioned, it's only his second year racing, and he's a smooth driver, he's a fast driver. I believe he'll be up front here, and the first couple laps he'll be up front. Once lap traffic comes around, you know, as long as he can maneuver in lap traffic and, you know, continue to change his line as the track changes, you know, he should do all right tonight.
You see Ranten Egeland on the front row and Croaker and Roemmling behind him, with Jade Hastings on the inside of row 3. And Hastings is a guy to watch after winning last week, and we've seen how well this young kid who's really starting to come into his own is starting to come into his own and starting to get more comfortable in the car, get more consistent. And we should mention Presley Truedson was scheduled to start on the inside of row 10. She will not make the call. We saw that car pull off in her heat race. And again, she wasn't even supposed to really be out there in her heat race, but decided to give it a go. Now it's back in the trailer. So Ranten Egeland will take us to green with Jack Croaker and Shane Roemmling in row 2. Waiting for the green flag. Ranten fires it up and we're underway. And Tanner Wisk comes to a stop right outside of turn 4. The 22 of Tanner Wisk out of Grand Forks. And that car just didn't look like it got up to speed, Chris.
Yeah, it looks like the left front got some damage. I'm not sure what caused that. The front axles on these cars are very, very lightweight. There's not a lot to them. It could have just bent, you know, at the drag link. It could have bent. It's just aluminum. I mean, there's not a lot of. It doesn't take a lot to bend these axles and to take a car out of commission.
That front steering column where you're putting everything together. What always has amazed me about sprint cars, how quickly drivers and teams can put those things back together after you break them, because really you just throw the parts in and it really doesn't take very long, does it?
Well, if you have a driver put it in, it'll take about 10 minutes. But you have these crew guys that do this stuff, you know, almost weekly for maintenance and stuff like that. There's 5 or 6 bolts, and that's all it takes. They could change that axle in 60 seconds. You could have that car in the pits and back on the track, you know, in and out.
Check that stuff out there.
So we did not get a lap in. So we will just go back to the double file start again, and everybody will start in the position that they're scheduled to for the start. So Ranten and Egeland on the front row, and Ranten really got off to a good start there, Chris. He was able to get on the gas and get himself some breathing room going into turn 1.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with that they dug up the track in turn 4, so that gave him a little moisture to take off with on the bottom. So it definitely worked in Nick's favor, and now that Tom Egeland on the outside of front row, now that he noticed that, he's going to play little games with him and see if he can't get the jump on this start.
Now we saw Jordan Adams in the pits, and now they're pushing the 28 back on to the track. So Jordan Adams will be out here to start this feature event. And Adams was scheduled to start on the inside of row 7. Excuse me, inside of row 8. So the 28 trying to get a feel here to see if that car is ready to go together. He will have to tag the end of the field after heading into the pits.
And something like that, he probably went into the first corner, realized the car was way off setup-wise, and going to the pits, you can make a quick change setup-wise, and really you're only going back 3 positions. That's probably not going to, you know, wreck his night, whereas if you would have tried to fight the car all night, he wouldn't have finished, you know, wouldn't have moved up as much. So it's a little gamble. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Well, the 28 just had some rotten luck. Last night he had a fuel line that was loose in his heat race, was not able to make the call, was scheduled to be on the front row of his heat race, couldn't do that in Ada, and then came off with an engine issue in the feature. Ranten again will take him to green. Egeland a little bit slow getting on the gas, and Jade Hastings shoots all the way up to 3rd place with Roemmling in 2nd. Dobmeier battling 3 wide with Egeland and also Bobby Martin back in the pack. And Austin Pierce trying to move up as well as Croaker slides to the high side. And now Pierce had to back off the gas a little bit as he almost got into the back of Egeland. Meanwhile, Nick Rand almost slid off the berm there coming out of turn 2, is able to save it with Jade Hastings putting on a little bit of pressure. Austin Pierce finally able to get by the 8-ball of Jack Croaker. Tom Egeland continues to run in 4th position, and oh boy, the 41 of Travis Strandell nearly got into Pierce and Croaker. And now Wade Nygaard almost got into a lap car. Jordan Adams slides to the high side as he's moved up a few positions, but it's Jade Hastings that continues to lead. Ranten is second, but here comes Mark Dobmeier trying to rail them all in, and a yellow flag as Jack Croaker went flying off the banking in turn 2, and he comes to a stop, and that'll bunch the field back up with Mark Dobmeier in 3rd position, but they will, I think, go on double file restart, right, Chris?
Yep, correct. That's something new that they've done the past couple of years. The heats, they'll run single file, and the features, they'll run double file. So as a driver, sometimes it helps you, sometimes it hurts you. As a fan, it's always exciting.
There's a look at Jack Croaker and the 8-ball. Kind of see he just lost the handle a little bit going into turns 1 and 2 and then slid off that banking. That never happened to you, did it?
Oh, never. Never going to admit it.
So Croaker will have to move to the back of the pack if they can get that car refired.
Yeah, it just looked like he missed the cushion going into 1, entered a little bit low, and when he got to the cushion, the momentum pulled him up and over the berm.
Chris Ranten and Wade Nygaard have been able to move up a little bit. Chris Ranten up to 8th, Wade Nygaard into 9th. Jordan Adams started at the back of the pack. He's passed 4 cars, now 5 cars with Croaker to get into the 12th position.
Yeah, the track's really starting to widen out. The track's starting to blue off. The track's getting a little bit blue. It's turning into a dry slick. It's almost like driving on ice. You have to be really, really careful on the gas. You don't want to just punch the gas. You want to kind of ease into the throttle so you don't spin the tires as much. You want to keep the car as straight as possible. I always try to say it's like driving your car on ice. You can see the cushion up there is a nice dark black stuff. Then it gets brown, then it's almost like a blue color.
Jade Hastings, because he's a leader, has the choice of where he wants to start, inside or outside, and he is taking the outside of row 1, knowing that the 13 loves to run that high side and try not to let Dobmeier pass him here right away on the start.
Yeah, and then you can see the bottom of the track's really drying out, so Jade's figuring the cushion's going to be the way to go on the takeoff here.
So Hastings and Ranten on that front row. Ranten started on the poles, been able to hang on to that position. Hastings off to a good start here. Dobmeier around Nick Ranten for 2nd place. And Austin Pierce makes a move, sliding into 4th as Nick Ranten slides off the banking in turns 3 and 4. And a tough break for the 55, starting on the pole. And he will now have to tag the back of the field. So the same lineup will actually not change because they did not get a lap in.
Correct.
So Dobmeier will just slide up to 2nd with Roemmling up to 3rd and Egeland and Pierce, so on and so forth.
Yep.
Push the back of the field for this Evergreen Insurance restart.
And they'll take a look at Nick Rand and see if they can't push him off and get him started once again. Didn't look like anything too major, just lost the handle on the car a little bit.
Yeah, just entered a little high in turn 3, and the right rear didn't stick going in, and it just kind of fell off. It was a very lazy spin out. Nothing hurt. They'll turn the car around, fire him back up.
He will start this Evergreen Insurance restart in 1st place when they go green. Dobmeier, the 13 Buffalo Wild Wings car.
You'd have to say Mark Dobmeier, with 20 laps to go, is certainly the favorite. Hastings last week was able to win here. Dobmeier actually went to Knoxville last week, raced with the World of Outlaws. They had 2 nights of racing down at the sprint car capital of the world. Dobmeier raced Friday, did not fare particularly well, did not make the A main. He did not stick around and race on Saturday. The weather didn't look favorable, and he wanted to come back and get his car ready because they had 4 nights of racing with the NOSA circuit here this weekend.
Yeah, and it's you can try run with the Outlaws. It's always tough, especially at Knoxville. It kind of puts 2 nights of racing on your engine, on your car, just because it's such a big track. As a car owner, he probably made the decision because he just didn't want to put the wear and tear on his car. He wanted it, like you mentioned, he wanted to get the car ready for this weekend.
So Ranten is back to power again, and he will tag the back of the field behind Jack Croaker. Pace car coming off. Hastings will take him to green, and again, single file now because they did not complete a lap on the restart with double file. Same rules as the World of Outlaws that we've seen do that as well.
Yep.
Hastings quickly on the green, coming out of turn 3 into 4. Hard on the cushion for the 8. Todd Egeland slides to the inside. Bobby Martin trying to make a move on Austin Pierce on that restart. Pierce got a little bit out of whack as here comes Chris Ranten in the 27 to the high side. And Ranten passes 2 cars. Past both Bobby Martin and Austin Pierce, and now around Todd Egeland into 4th place. Dobmeier trying to reel in Jade Hastings. Boy, Chris Ranten, what a drive for this guy. Started way back in 9th, all the way up to 4th.
Yeah, Jade Hastings has a pretty good pace he's setting here. Dobmeier's keeping pace with them.
And I will see how the youngster Hastings does in lap traffic. That's always something you have to watch.
Yeah, in about another corner here, he'll be heavy in lap traffic.
Oh, he got a car over in turn 2, and a red flag is out. That is Chris Ranten. Chris Ranten in the 27, who was in a melee here not that long ago, was in a 7-car pileup. He's had issues finishing races. He had a great drive going up to 4th, and he lost it, flying end over end. A pretty violent roll coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how quick the fire crew got there as well. You know, it's something to be said. You know, it's these fire guys. They're most of them are either volunteer or they don't get paid all that much, and they're doing it just because they want to keep the drivers safe. And
Ranten is out of the car. He looks like he's fine.
Visibly upset.
Let's see if we got a look at this one on the replay. Here's a look at Ranten. You see he just lost the edge. And there he takes the tumble. Back towards pit road there. That's where the cars actually enter the track and exit the track. And Ranten just lost the handle and took a violent tumble.
Yeah, just like his brother Nick did going into turn 3 and 4. He just went into the corner and missed the cushion or came in a little too hot for the cushion and went up and over.
Rough start here for the 27 of the 2019 season. Let's go to Jay Elsen.
Yeah, fellas, obviously a scary wreck. The good news there, as you said, Brian, Chris got out of the car on his own accord. He seems fine, other than the frustration and disappointment of looking at this machine in the shape that it's in right now. But that's all anybody cares about at this point. You see the wing got peeled back. Really, really nasty wreck, and you got to feel pretty lucky, I think, right now if you're Chris.
Yeah, a lot of work to do on that 27 machine, and Chris is a busy guy too, Jay. He's been running his own business, I believe, for a few years. Last year, he had so many motor issues. I think he went through about 4 different motors, had to spend a ton of money to get his car back up and running again, and unfortunately, he's just had this happen too many times here to start this 2019 season.
Yeah, it seems like when it rains and pours with these guys, well, not these guys, but in sprint cars, You either have a great season all year, or if one thing goes wrong, it just piles on, and it's a long season. You almost can't wait till 2020.
Meanwhile, there's a look at the leader after 8 laps, Jade Hastings, and it did not look like Mark Dobmeier was really reeling him in by any stretch of the imagination. The 8 car is dialed in pretty good here on the top.
Yeah, Jade does really well here on the top. He does very well in the lap traffic. It would have been really exciting to see the 8H and the 13, trade and slide jobs within lap traffic. In another 3, 4, 5 laps, we'll get to see it here again.
So Tom Egeland, who is running 5th, will move up to 4th. Austin Pierce now into the top 5, and Wade Nygaard now up to 6th.
Yeah, and I was watching Wade in the beginning of the race. He had his car set up really tight in the beginning, expecting the track to dry out, which it has. So he was kind of, in a lack of better terms, he was kind of out to lunch in the first couple laps, but he should be a force here in the last couple.
Last night's winner out at Norman County Raceway in Ada, Minnesota. Track conditions was pretty dry, rubber down track. Talking to Wade and Mark Dobmeier, who finished 2nd in that event, said we weren't sure how much tire we had left in that right rear, and Wade didn't think he had more than 2 or 3 more laps that he could have finished on that track just based on how much rubber had been laid down.
Yeah, and it's always a gamble. Do you push the car harder if you're leading, or do you slow down a little bit and try to save your tires? Because there's no rear view mirrors in these cars. So you're kind of driving off of shadows, you're driving off of sound, and you want to push the car as fast as you can because you don't want second place to sneak up on you and steal a win away from you. But at the same time, you want to drive as hard as you can. Try not to let second place catch you.
And I talked to Wade, did you know Mark Dobmeier was on you? And he goes, well, I thought I heard him one time on my outside, but it's one of those things where you're so concentrating on staying on your line, which everybody kind of found the rubber in the middle of the track, and it was follow the leader because that was the fastest way around.
Yeah, and typically the track will, or the cars will go up a half a car length, or excuse me, they'll go down a half a car length because your left rear takes rubber on the track first, then you put your right rear in that rubber, and then that's where then everybody starts going into the rubber, and it's, once, like you said, it's a follow the leader after everybody finds it.
Brendan Mullen, the youngster, 16 years old, in his 2nd year in a 410 sprint car, finished 3rd last night, and Mullen has found it tough to move up here tonight. And Chris, if you are running a tire, how much tire are you using on a track like this one?
Typically, Grand Forks is actually very, very easy on tires. It typically doesn't rubber up. It's a very nice clay surface. Tonight you'll hardly wreck the tires. So if you put a brand new tire on, you can run it again tomorrow night.
And they will go double file once again, and Jade Hastings once again choosing the outside line with Dobmeier to the inside. So we'll see if the 8 can hold off the 13 here on this restart. Tom Egeland, Shane Roemmling in the 2nd row with Austin Pierce and Wade Nygaard, a couple of past track champions, in the 3rd row. Hastings on the gas hard, and Roemmling following him into turn 1. Dobmeier bouncing off with the front end into turns 1 and 2, and Hastings off to a good start here as we complete our first lap. Now 9 laps complete, 16 to go.
Yeah, Hastings is setting a blistering lap once again. Dobmeier's keeping up, and actually Shane Roemmling is keeping pace in the turn 3.
And the 41 car, and again, we talked about Travis Strandell, his first night in a sprint car, and it is shown. You're trying to get used to driving these machines, and if you're not used to it, you're still trying to figure a setup. And Chris, you've been a rookie. It is a major challenge when you are learning on the job in one of these machines.
Yeah, there's not a lot of tracks that'll allow you to practice. They're too expensive to practice, on a farmstead or something, and there's really no other way to practice instead of just driving on the track. These cars are really tough to drive as well. You hit the gas and they pull to the left, and when you let go of the gas, the engine has so much torque that it'll actually throw the car to the right. So when you go into the corner, you hit the gas and the car wants to almost spin out, so you lift off the gas and the car pulls to the right. it exaggerates, you know, a rookie that doesn't know, you know, what to expect. You see something from the stands here or on TV, and it exaggerates. The car exaggerates everything you do.
So we'll line up and do it again. We did get one lap in, so they will go double file restart once again. And I think if you're Jade Hastings, the one thing you probably don't want to see is restarts, because he's had good ones, but you have to figure at some point the 13 has a chance to maybe get him on a restart here as well.
Yeah, Jade will have the benefit of starting in the preferred position, but you know, one bobble and the 13 will take advantage of you.
15 cars remain on the track as Hastings is on the gas hard once again. Dobmeier trying to race into that first corner. Hastings, nice move as he blocked the 13 and kind of cut him off there, chopped him a little bit going into turn 1.
Yeah, slammed the door. He saw Dobmeier was probably going to try one of his slide jobs, and Hastings stopped it before it started.
Meanwhile, Wade Nygaard is up to 4th, and Austin Pierce a slide job on Shane Roemmling up now into 4th position with Nygaard in 3rd. Roemmling 5th, Bobby Martin and Nick Omdahl battling for that 6th position, and Omdahl has it. Omdahl's gotten faster here on these restarts. Meanwhile, Hastings continues to lead, very comfortable riding around the top here. As we have 12 laps to go, and the car is over. Out in turns 1 and 2, and another one is spun. But there is a red flag out as a car, and that is the other Ranten, Nick Ranten. It has been a rough night for the Ranten brothers, as Nick lost the handle going into turn 1, and he tipped and tumbled.
Yeah, that's an expensive night for Team Ranten.
And again, you feel for Nick because he started on the pole, had a chance to have a strong finish tonight, spun out in turns 3 and 4, had to tag the back of the pack, and now he loses the handle once again. And this one will cost a little bit more money than his first mishap.
Yeah, and it's when both cars fell off the track in similar fashions, to me that means they set up the cars fairly similar, and they didn't have a lot of side bite in the car. They might have had forward bite, but they were probably expecting the track to keep a little more moisture up on top. Didn't have a lot of side bite in the right rear to keep the car from sliding sideways off the track.
You talk about side bite, does that have anything to do with tire pressure and how much you put in?
Tire pressure, you can do shocks, torsion bars. There's a lot of different items you can do. You can put different wheel spacings on the car.
And the medical staff is taking a look at Nick, who looks like he's okay. Maybe a little wobbly coming out of the car there.
Yeah, he was upside down for a while. He's probably a little bit dizzy. I've never had a rollover where I wasn't dizzy. So
let's take another look at it. The 55, you see him right there, just went in and looked like he lost control of the car and didn't hit the wall very hard. But it's that last little bit where he just kind of fell on top and was stuck there.
You can see the left rear kind of bouncing, so the shock mount broke on that. I wonder if the shock mount broke before, because it almost looked like he drove straight off
the turn 1 there, yeah.
And if the shock mount broke, you know, it could have been damaged, you know, in that first, when he fell off the track the first time, or maybe he got in contact with another car, but yeah, he took a pretty violent tumble that first hit.
So you're looking at the right side, Chris?
Yep, the right side, which is actually your left rear, and as it's bouncing there, it's the shock mount is broke, and it's just kind of bouncing on the torsion bar.
And there's a look at the damage on the 55 of Nick Ranten.
Okay, does everybody understand that? Ambulance and fire truck are coming around.
Well, we started off with 19 sprint cars here tonight, and now we're down to 14 that remain here in the A feature. Halfway gone, about halfway gone. 12 laps completed, 13 remain.
Hastings is your leader so far.
Jade Hastings continues to lead. Mark Dobmeier about a second behind on the last lap. Wade Nygaard has moved into third, Austin Pierce fourth, and Shane Roemmling in your top five.
Mullen ninth, and Jack Croaker will line up in 10th for your Evergreen Insurance restart.
As much as these restarts probably worry Jade because he's leading, he's probably enjoying them because he runs about 3-4 laps and then starts to catch lap traffic. Caution comes out, gets a clean track in front of him. As a fan, you want to see the race go, green to checkered or a little bit longer so you can get some lap traffic in there. But as a driver, it's all right when you get a couple cautions and it gets you a nice clean track in front.
And it looks like they're going to push Travis Strandell into the infield of the 41T car. Let's see if they can restart him. Maybe they will.
Travis Strandell also spun on that last caution, but I don't think he was the cause of the caution as Ranten went flying. And now they refire the cars. There's the 41. And Jade Hastings has gotten better and better every year. Had one of his best finishes. I believe had a top 10 finish last year in August with the World of Outlaws here. And has won some races, including one last week, 3 feature wins last season. And this is a guy and a kid that just has progressed and progressed. He's got a lot of talent, Chris.
Yeah, he came from the go-kart ranks, and the go-karts teach a driver nice to be consistent. You only have a 5-horse Briggs on most of those engines, and you have to be smooth. And on these dry tracks, that's what it takes to be fast. Yes, you have 800, 900 horse engines now, but you still have to be smooth. You still have to be easy on the gas, easy on the throttle, keep your car straight, and that's what it takes to win these races. And it's showing tonight. He's very smooth up on the cushion. He's making all the right decisions, and we'll find out in 13 laps if he can keep it going.
We did not complete the restart, so I believe we will continue to go single file now on this restart. Had a few different cautions come out. The Rantens, unfortunately, have had the 2 worst wrecks here tonight. Oh, they will go double file. Excuse me, must have gotten a couple laps in.
Yeah, must have got a lap or so in.
Nick Omdahl's done a nice job coming all the way from the back of the pack now into 6th. Omdahl starting on the inside of row 7. Hastings on the gas, gets on the cushion, gets the momentum, and Wade Nygaard following him, and Nygaard passes Mark Dobmeier into 2nd place. And here comes Omdahl all the way up to 4th, passing both Shane Roemmling and Austin Pierce. And now Pierce takes the position back. But how about Nygaard? Going to try to chase down his young protege in Hastings.
Yeah, Nygaard just followed Hastings on that start and just took off, and it worked to both their advantages.
Hastings continues to pull away from everybody. Nygaard still in 2nd. He's about 1.4 seconds back as Dobmeier tries to reel him in. Pierce continues to run 4th, and now Roemmling is over the berm in turn 2, and a yellow flag will have to come out for the 31. Nine laps remain, 16 laps completed. And Roemmling, who is running 5th, will have to go to the back of the pack. There you see the 31 just could not hold it.
So unofficially, it's Hastings in 1st, Nygaard in 2nd, followed by Dobmeier, Pierce.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of cushion left up over there. It's cars are going up, slamming into it, and it's just they're all falling off. You saw a little fire action out of the header there. That's just raw fuel burning. Just he fell off the track and let off the gas, and the fuel just dumped in, and that's just raw fuel burning out of the exhaust.
And the 41 of Strandell has pulled off as well. And only 12 cars now remain in this feature event as the 41 will get pushed to the infield.
And they're going to push the 41T car
So Hastings will once again take the high line with Wade Nygaard on the inside of him. Dobmeier to the inside around Nygaard, and the 13 puts a move on. Nygaard slides right in front of the 13, and now Roemmling and Croaker and Jordan Adams get together. And that was a wild restart with Nygaard, Dobmeier, second and third.
Yeah, Nygaard was trying to get to the top on that restart. Jade Hastings took off, so Nygaard turned the car right to get up into the cushion, and Dobmeier saw that, so he used the banking to his advantage, and you can see this. Dobmeier used the banking to his advantage, got in front. Nygaard throws a big old slider and about 2 inches in front of both drivers, and that's a pretty slide job.
By the slimmest of margins. I'm not sure if you're going to fit a sheet of paper between the fuel tank of Nygaard and the front wing of Mark Dobmeier.
Yeah, and that's 2 veteran drivers knowing where their car is and you know where the other driver is and what the other driver is going to do. Both drivers are going to drive 100%, not going to give an inch, and they both are sitting second and third trying to catch the youngster, Jade Hastings.
And for Shane Roemmling, report we're getting is something broken on the front end of that 31 machine, so he is on the wrecker and he will not come back. Jordan Adams will try to restart, and I think Jack Croaker should be okay as well. Adams, looks like that car is okay. Croaker will also get pushed back off here.
You can see as some of these cars are hitting the gas. They're what they're doing. They're keeping heat in the tires to try to keep the tires warm. Warmer tires stick to the track better when it's dry, slick like this, and it also keeps the engine clean of fuel. Anytime you let the cars idle or drive it around, they get full of fuel. When you hit the gas to take off, the car won't go. So you want to kind of clean the engine out so that when you hit the gas on the green flag here, the car will take off when you want it to.
So Adams will move back to the 10th position and Croaker behind him in 11th. So single file now this time by after the caution on that restart. Hastings on the gas. Nygaard will go low and he'll slide up to the high side, and Dobmeier makes the pass. Austin Pierce also following in, and now Nygaard back trying to put the slide job, and Dobmeier couldn't make it stick. Jade Hastings got high on the cushion, able to hold on. Pierce still battling Nygaard for third as Dobmeier now trying to set his sights on Jade Hastings with 8 laps to go.
Yeah, turn 1 and 2, the cushion up on top is getting really tricky.
Now the car's even spinning the tires a little bit coming out of 3 and 4, and Jordan Graham spins around in turn 3. We have another caution.
And these cautions are playing into Jade Hastings' favor 100% of the time. He's running, 2-3 laps and then a caution comes out. He has nothing but clean track ahead of him. As Jade Hastings is just getting excited, the laps are ticking down and he's still sees open track in front of him.
Does it concern you, though, with a veteran like Dobmeier, who's so crafty on this track, continues to get shots at you on restarts? Because that's where things can go a little bit haywire for you. So far, it's been Dobmeier and Nygaard racing side by side, cutting each other off, and that's allowed Hastings to get a little bit of a jump start on everybody.
Yeah, and all it'll take is a hiccup on a restart if Jade doesn't clean out his engine enough, or if he stumbles on the cushion. The big benefit that Jade has right now is he's starting up on the cushion, and Dobmeier has to start in the dry slick. So that'll really go to Jade Hastings and Nygaard's advantage. It wouldn't surprise me to see Jade Hastings and Nygaard come out of turn 2 on this next restart, first and second.
What we saw Nygaard doing one of the restarts is as soon as they threw the green flag, he went right to the top coming out of turn 4 and almost cut Mark Dobmeier off. anticipating a pass on that high side.
Yeah, you want to get up to the cushion as quick as you can with how dry the bottom is. The fast way is up on the top.
So again, Hastings and Dobmeier side by side here on the front row. Hastings first on the gas. Dobmeier sliding in front of Nygaard. And Austin Pierce, 3 wide going into turn number 1. And it's Austin Pierce now into second. What a move by the two. And now Dobmeier back the other way, puts the slide job on Pierce. And those two continue to battle for position. Nygaard to the high side, and Omdahl now up to 5th. And Pierce, what about the race for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th?
And that's allowing Jade Hastings just to keep pulling away.
Pierce trying to slide on that high side, leaves it open for Dobmeier, who does make the pass on the outside. 5 laps to go for Jade Hastings. Can he hold off the 13 of Mark Dobmeier, who will try to make a charge here? Pierce and Nygaard racing for 3rd and 4th. Nygaard, a nice slide job on Austin Pierce for 3rd. Hastings continues to lead. 3 laps to go, and look at the slide jobs that Nygaard and Pierce are putting on each other. Wow!
Every other lap they're switching positions. That's pretty exciting.
Look at these guys go at each other.
Haymaker after haymaker.
There's a look at Hastings. He will take the white flag this time by. Coming up on lap traffic. Can he hold on for one more lap? Hastings goes low. Dobmeier to the cushion. He has cut down the lead to about 5 lengths. Hastings trying to go low, and he will hold off Dobmeier for the Buffalo Wild Wings checkered flag. Back-to-back wins in consecutive weeks for the number 8 of Jade Hastings.
And I believe something a little different than last week. I believe Jade Hastings had one of the best cars on the track this week.
Wade Nygaard comes home 3rd, Pierce 4th, Nick Omdahl up to 5th, Jack Croaker 6th, followed by Ty Hanten, Jordan Adams, and Bobby Martin in the 10. It's very rare that any driver is able to hold off Mark Dobmeier for as long as Jade Hastings did. An exciting finish. Brendan Mullen is 10th, followed by Jordan Graham, Shane Roemmling, Blake Egeland, Nick Ranten.
And the top 5 have to scale. It's a different rule this year. The winner used to just be able to come in and go to victory lane. This year you have to scale the car first. Then they'll push him back for the victory lane celebration. And I can about guarantee Jade Hastings will have $1 million smile on this week.
And it sure would have made it interesting, Chris, had we had 1 or 2 more laps with lap traffic becoming a factor. But Hastings able to hold on after several restarts here in the last 10 or 12 laps to pick up the victory as he heads to the scales. We'll step aside and chat with your winner in victory lane after this on Midco SN. It's been a fun night of racing here at the Bullring in Grand Forks. Back here at River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks, Jade Hastings on top of the car, hoisting the checkered flag, picking up his 2nd straight feature win here at River Cities Speedway, holding off Mark Dobmeier in the final laps.
He put on a very good run tonight. Almost a veteran run. He looked really good up on top. He held off a lot of restarts where you have, a driver like Wade Nygaard and Mark Dobmeier on your tail. That takes a lot of nerves.
And Austin Pierce for a moment there had passed both Dobmeier and Wade Nygaard as they were racing it on the high line and was able to slide underneath him for 2nd. But Dobmeier able to maneuver around and get his way back into that 2nd position. But by then, Hastings had built enough of a cushion to hold off any charge from the 13.
Yeah, if you're up in the front, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to drive. And Jade Hastings picked the fastest way around. And when you do slide jobs, you're not in the fastest part of the race. You're kind of in the slower part. So Jade was able to pull about a straightaway lead. And on that last lap, Mark Dobmeier in the 13 was about 2 or 3 car lengths away.
Jay Elsen is with the victorious Jade Hastings.
All right, thanks, Brian. Jade, we talked to you a week ago
After your win here at River Cities Speedway on Midco Motorsports, you said going into the week you were really unhappy with how you were running here. It wasn't up to your personal standards. 2 weeks later, 2 races later, how much better do you feel than you did at the start of last week?
Way better. I mean, we really weren't turning in any good finishes to start the year in our first 5 attempts, and we needed to turn it around, and it was up to me to do it. My guys are doing everything they can, and I got to drive the balls off this thing every time I get in it, and we've been good. I mean, we had a little bit of a screw-up last night in Ada, but last 2 times here we put in victory lane against some really good competition, so it feels good.
Yeah, let's talk about how this one went down. You got to the front early, and you got a couple of big dogs trying to track you down, and Mark Dobmeier and Wade Nygaard, particularly Dobmeier. It's hard enough to hold off the 13, of course, but to do it on that many restarts, does it feel that much more rewarding to get that job done?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was just doing everything I could to race my own race and not really think about them. I probably got lucky that we didn't get into lap traffic too deep because I was getting kind of tired in the car, so I don't know if I would have been able to make it. But yeah, we nailed the restarts, and it worked out in our favor. It was fun.
Seemed as that race wore down, that right rear really started to go on you. Did you have much left in it? Could you held them off for much longer?
Oh yeah, I had some tire left. We could have kept going. My car was just starting to get tight, and coming across the checkered flag, I think we might have popped our engine here. So it's going to be a long night tonight in the shop to get another engine and get ready for tomorrow, and hopefully we can have this engine back in a couple weeks and be ready to go.
Yeah, a couple of big races coming up for you. Big weekend for NOSA as a whole. Brown County on Saturday and then Casino Speedway on Sunday. But boy, you got to like your momentum heading into the weekend.
Oh yeah, I mean, coming into this weekend, I knew we were going to have a good one. I got my confidence back. I'm ready to go, and I want to win races. So, I don't know, 2 races. Let's try and go 50%.
All right, congratulations, Jade. Jade Hastings, tonight's NOSA Sprints winner here at River Cities Speedway, guys.
Well, unfortunate that he popped the motor as he came across the start-finish, but more fortunate, Chris, that he didn't pop it the lap before. It would have been a much more sour taste, I think, in his mouth in victory lane as he talked about it.
Yeah, and he was running the top the whole time, you know, and there's moisture up there so you can hit the gas. When he drove to the middle to the bottom of the track to pass Jordan Graham coming to the line, it's dry slick there. I'm sure he kept his foot in the gas. You're coming to the checkered. You're not going to let anybody pass you coming to the line. So I'm sure he held her down a little more than he wanted to. But all he was seeing is that checkered flag, and he was going for it.
Well, you got to go for it when you have your opportunities, especially when the 13 of Mark Dobmeier is behind you. Big win for Jade Hastings, his 2nd straight here in as many weeks. Chris and I and Jay back to wrap this one up from the legendary bullring after this on Midco SN. Back here to wrap things up at River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Brian, Shawn, Chris Shirek, and Jay Elsen with you. Thanks so much for joining us for this telecast of live dirt track racing on Midco Sports Network. Weren't sure what the weather situation was going to be coming into the day. The rain is held off for now. We do know it is coming here in the next half hour or so, but thankfully the racing gods were looking upon us here tonight.
Yeah, we got them all in. That's quick night of racing. You only have 3 classes, and we didn't have a lot of yellows or reds until feature time, but we got it all in, and that's what it's all about. Fans got a great race, and TV got a great race. It was just all around was a great night.
Saw some tremendous slide jobs, especially in that sprint car feature. Also had a great win by Kelsey Pederson in the lightning sprints. And it was fun to watch even the street stocks go at it a little bit. Big winner there for Trey Hess, his first win here at River City Speedway.
Yeah, it's always exciting when you have a first-time winner. Trey Hess had a first-time winner. He got out of the car. He was all excited and speechless almost, during the interview. And that's what it's all about. Your adrenaline is up. You're excited. That's what it's all about.
Well, it's been a fun night of racing. We appreciate all the folks that make this happen. For Jay Elsen, Chris Shirek, our producer Greg Enkers, director Mike Derman, our entire Midco SN crew, I'm Brian Shawn saying so long from River City Speedway in Grand Forks. We hope you enjoyed live dirt track racing from here at the legendary Bullring.